The next concept we are going to look at is the provisioned throughput units, or what we call it as PTUs. The Azure OpenAI service, they have got a new model. So by default, the model is pay as you go. So how many times you call the API to get the response, you will be paying for that. But now there is a new model, that is pricing model, that is available for customers to use, especially if customers are running high volume or high latency sensitive workloads, then they can actually reserve model capacity. So when we say reserve capacity, basically like you will be working with the customers will be working with Microsoft, providing their use cases, and they will also mention like, okay, what are their workload characteristics, like the prompt size, the completion size, number of concurrent API requests, and what is the latency that they are looking for. With the provision throughput units, you always get a consistent performance or latency, and that is really important because you don't want the first time when you ask a question you got a response pretty quickly, the second time it took more time. So you want to give the consistent experience for your users, right? So that's where provisioned throughput unit comes into play. So provision throughput unit, or PTUs, they are a monthly commitment. So once you purchased, then you can go ahead and create your new deployments from the foundational models during your course of your commitment. And this works for a lot of organizations where they want to have a proper, like a predictable performance. So for instance, if they don't want to get into a scenario where they say, oh, there is a huge demand in East US, so the APIs won't be able to respond. So they want to make sure like they have got the Azure OpenAI service provisioned in a region that can meet their demands. And that's where PTUs come into picture. So the provisioned throughput units is a new Azure OpenAI feature that allows customers to reserve and deploy model processing capacity for running high volume workloads. So it provides predictable performance, it provides reserved processing capacity, and also like for high throughput workloads, you will start to see cost savings in comparison to the token based like a pay as you go pricing model. So you can manage the provisioned throughput unit. So basically, like you want to see how many requests are coming through, what is my utilization, what is my latency or token and request counts. You will be able to use the production monitoring and the performance assessment tool set to keep an eye on your consumption. So because if you are committing to a monthly commitment, you need to see how well you are utilizing it. And that's what you can do with these tools. So let us quickly look at how does this provisioned throughput workflow really work. So if you have decided as an organization that you want to provide consistent performance for your end users and you want to purchase provisioned throughput unit, normally what happens is customers, they work with the Microsoft account team to define what should be their provisioned throughput requirements by model and geographic region. Then the customer will use the online calculator to estimate the required PTUs, and the account team and product team will collaborate with the customer to identify which Azure regions where the capacity is available to meet the customer needs. And finally, Microsoft and customer, they finalize the agreement to purchase PTUs in that particular region, and also signing any relevant contract amendments and so on. So that's how it really works. So once this is all agreed, then the Microsoft product team will go ahead and reserve that capacity for that particular customer, and they will provide the PTU quota in their Azure subscription. So the calculator link that you have got here, that will help you to calculate the like what how much PTUs that you need to use. So the PTU quota is assigned per model type, and the expectation is the PTU quota will be purchased within 48 hours of the assignment. So basically, you will be purchasing the PTUs from within the 48-hour duration from the time of the assignment. So now you can purchase the PTUs commitments, and then once it is there, then you can create your resources within the provisioned throughput deployments, and which means it is going to use those commitments and it will be leveraging it. when you are creating the deployments, right, there is no difference between how you will be doing it for a pay as you go deployment or a provisioned deployment. The only difference when you see is like when the deployment type will be set to provision managed, and the desired number of PTUs will also be set in there. That's the only thing that you will be looking at. And then you can assess the performance using benchmark tool, as well as you can monitor the user utilization using the Azure monitor. This is mainly because sometimes you may go for a monthly commitment, but it is worthwhile to periodically check how well you are using the monthly commitment. So once you do all these things, so there will be some basic questions that you will be having in your mind. How do I know what should be the size or what should be the number of PTUs I need for my project? So first thing is you need to understand your throughput requirements. So what should be the prompt input, what should be the prompt generation output, what should be the exact expected calls per minute for my solution. Then you'll be using the Azure OpenAI capacity calculator. So once you use the calculator, you can translate your workloads into how many PTUs you really require. And then finally, you can validate it using the benchmark tool and with real traffic. Because once you put that in production, right, it is no longer static, right? You will start to see the real traffic patterns, and you can use the benchmarking tool to see how well it is being utilized, and then you can go ahead and adjust accordingly. So the provisioned throughput unit, the purchase and the reservation model. So this is basically a monthly commitment where PTUs will be purchased by the customers. The committed PTUs will be always available and reserved for your use. So basically what it means is like you won't be getting errors saying like, oh, the region is in demand, we can't provide the open AI service can't provide you responses and so on. And also billing is upfront for the entire month. From the day you are purchasing, you are paying for the entire month and you have to use it efficiently. And PTUs can be also added as a commitment mid-month, but you can't reduce it because when you purchase it, you pay for the whole month and that's it. So if you partially stop using it half of the month, then whatever you paid is paid, it can't be refunded. And if the commitment is not renewed, then it will start to bill on a per hour usage. So that's how it is going to be if you are not renewing it. So the models that are available under the PTU stuff is GPT-4, 8K and 32K, GPT-4 Turbo Preview and GPT 3.5 Turbo. These are some of the regions where it is available, but as you can see, there are quite a few regions where it is coming soon. So watch that space.